Welcome to My Sew Bliss. Today I'm so excited to be partnering up with Baby Lock sewing machines and bringing you another sewing tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to make some mittens or gloves out of an old sweater. So the supplies that you're going to need are first, of course, your sweaters. And I'm using this one as the lining of mine, mostly because this is my main fabric. So I have two sweaters that I'm using. This is a looser weaved knit. So that's why I have a lining going on. If yours is a lot thicker and you don't want a lining, don't worry about it. You can follow the steps after I attach the lining and it'll be totally fine. So all you're gonna need is two sweaters or one. And then I used some cardstock paper to create my pattern and a pencil. And then all my basic sewing supplies. So I'm going to be using my Baby Lock Brilliant, which is this machine right here. If you have watched my other sewing tutorials with this machine, I love this machine. This is my everyday using machine that I use for pretty much everything. It has so many cool features and I just love it so much. I'll put a link down below for it. I am so happy to be working with Baby Lock and sharing this machine with you because it is just the greatest. So hopefully you guys will go check it out and see all the cool machines that Baby Lock has to offer. So let's get started making our gloves.
For our first step, we're actually going to make our pattern for our mitten. And I'm just going to be using a piece of cardstock and a pencil. And then I'm just going to take my own hand. If you're making them for someone else, you can hopefully use their hand because that'll give you the most accurate way of doing it, or someone their size would be helpful. So I'm going to lift mine a little bit further because I want it down on my wrist a little bit. I'm going to come out about 3/4 of an inch, and that's going to give me room for sewing the pieces together, but it's also going to give my wrist a little wiggle room, a little breathing room. Just want to make sure it actually fits and doesn't suffocate my hand. And then I'm just going to start going up the side of my thumb, but I'm going to keep it about 1/2 an inch away from my thumb. I'm going to flatten my hand a little more, extend my thumb, and I really want to keep it 1/2 an inch away so that I have that seam allowance amount and it'll fit nicely on my hand once it's sewn. And then I'll just continue and go around. I want that round thumb shape. And then right here, when we get to where the thumb attaches, we're gonna kind of curve that up a little more. Let's see. I just kind of freehand it and sketch it how I like it. And I like that kind of curve right there. So I'm going to continue that up. I'm keeping it to about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch away. And same when I go to the height. I don't want to compromise on that height. So I want to make sure I get plenty of room in there to create that seam and so that my hand has space to breathe. I don't want it too loose either or it'll fall off. So just keep that in mind. And then I'll continue down side of my hands, angle in slightly, and then again at about 3/4 I'll come out. I think I came in a little too far right here, so I'm going to come out. Okay, perfect. Angle that. So as you can tell, mine looks a lot more like scribbles, but it's just kind of how I work, how I process it. And once I eyeball it, can kind of relax my fingers a little bit. Let's see. I think that looks really good. So now I'm going to cut out my pattern piece. Now I have my pattern piece, and this is going to be good for my 2 left pieces, and then I can just flip it over for 2 right pieces because my hands are pretty similar and they're gonna match up just like that. So this one piece will be perfect for us. I'm going to take it to my sweater and get ready to cut it out. So here I have my lining fabric. It's just an old sweatshirt. It has some pockets up here so you can see it's kind of bulky on the sides. So I've just kind of pushed those out of the way. And then I have lined up the bottom hem so that way I can cut through both layers at the same time. So I'll start with my left pieces. And my favorite way to cut stuff like this is just using pattern weights and then using a rotary cutter. It just goes so much easier and smoother, especially when it's a knit fabric like this. So I'll just use my rotary cutter. I have my rotary cutting mat. Pattern weights will hold my pattern in place, and I'm ready to go. Now, once I have my left hand glove completely cut out on the lining, I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing for the right hand glove. And I'm just tugging that pocket out of the way. And then I'll make sure my hem is lined up and everything's laying flat. There's no puckers or anything. And then I can put my weights on and cut it out. With both lining pieces cut out, I'm going to set those off to the side, and then I'm going to get my main fabric ready to be cut out. And it's just like how we did the lining. I'm just going to line everything up, line up the bottom. This one I'm actually going to cut with my shears because it's a thicker, this gorgeous knit fabric. I think it'll be a lot easier if I cut it with these and a lot cleaner. So I can set my pattern on here. I'm just kind of eyeballing where I want it because I have these larger weaves that go through it. I think I want them going through both of them instead of one going down the middle. I think I'm going to have it offset. So I'm just going to line it up with the bottom, line up the hem, and then put it in place. And I am going to pin this time just in a couple spots, and then I'll start cutting it out. With all my pieces cut out, now I'm going to attach the lining pieces to my main knitted fabric pieces. And I'm going to do this because this is a very loose weave and I want these to become like one. And that way it's just going to keep it from unraveling and keep it all together while I put the mittens together the rest of the way. So to do that, what I'm going to do is here I have the right side of my left hand glove for the knit, and then here you can see is the right side technically of this other fabric. It's a knit as well, but you can tell it has like a French terry feel on the inside. So I'm going to keep that on the inside, and my right side is going to be lined up with my wrong side of my this knitted fabric. So I'm just going to set those on top of each other and pin around it just a little bit. And then I'll take it over to my sewing machine and I'll show you how we are going to baste that in place so that it becomes technically like one piece, and then we're ready to go through with our next steps. So here we are over at the Baby Lock Brilliant, and I'm going to be doing a basting stitch to hold that lining on to my main fabric. So what a basting stitch is, it's just, usually it's your longest stitch that you can have, and usually that goes up to 5 mm, and I'm going to take it down to 4.5 just so it's a little bit tighter to hold it in place really well for us while we get everything ready to go. So I'm just going to take my mitten piece, just one of them, has the 2 layers, and I'm going to sew all the way around it. I'm not going to sew along this bottom part right here though. Once you have your lining pieces sewn on to your front pieces, then we're going to put our mittens together. So this is my right hand mitten. Doesn't really matter at this point, but I'm going to put them right sides together. So I have the front fabric that I want seen on the outside, right sides together. And I'm going to just pin it in a few places just to make sure it stays in place, because next we are going to sew this together. So once I have it pinned, I'm then going to take it over to my sewing machine and I will show you what we're going to do. So now I'm back over at the Baby Lock Brilliant, and I still have my stitch length set to 4.5. So we're actually going to change that and put that back down. You can leave it at 2.5, which is the normal stitch length. I'm going to take it down to 2, again, because mine's like a loose weave. I want to make sure it gets sewn really nicely. So I'm going to flip my mitten over, and I'm going to start just like how we sewed the lining onto it. I'm just going to stitch starting here, and I will make sure to back stitch, and then I'm going to stitch all the way around, leaving this end open so that we can actually put our hand in. So this is a lot of layers, so I suggest going slow, and we're going to be stitching at 1/2 inch. And I'm going to stitch a little bit, and then I'll make sure to back stitch. Really lock those stitches in place. Since your hand's going to be coming in and out, you really want to make sure to do that. And then also all the way around. When I get to the thumb and the finger part at the top, I just pivot, leaving my needle down and just turning my presser foot as it goes, so that way it gives it a rounded look and feel for that thumb to go in. And I'm making sure that I'm staying on the lining. My knit, as you can see, comes out a little bit farther. That's more because it's stretched. So I'm making sure that I'm 1/2 inch in on my lining, and that way I'm making sure it's catching all the layers. And then I cut my threads at the end. Once those pieces are sewn together, I'm going to take some scissors and just trim off the little threads. And then if there's any excess bulk, especially up here around the fingers, I'm going to trim that off. So we don't need that on the inside. Here we go. And then especially around the thumb, I want to make sure that's all trimmed up and nice. If you got far away right here, you want to make sure you trim that so you have enough movement for the thumb. Trim that. Let's see this side, make sure that looks good. Make sure we didn't miss anything. Okay, and then once it's all trimmed, you can then turn it right sides out. If you want to, actually make sure it fits your hand first. So it fits really nice. I'm really happy with it. It's looking good. Now we can turn it right sides out. So I'm just gonna take it and while it's on my hand, pull it and start pushing it through then. Make sure that curve pushes out nicely. And the thumb hole, I have found that it helps if you get a straw and push a straw up in there. And that really helps get it extended all the way through. Got some few extra strands that need to be trimmed, but other than that, it's looking really good. I'm really excited about this. Okay, so once you have that glove done, you can go do the exact same thing to the other mitten.
Once you have finished both of your gloves and turned them both right sides out, you can try them on and you are all done. I love them. I love how cute they are. They're so easy, so simple. And I just love that I repurposed this sweater that was getting kind of old and not my favorite anymore, but now it can be used as the cutest gloves, mittens, whatever you want to call them. And I love it so much. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe. I'll leave links down below for the products that I used, especially for the Baby Lock Brilliant. Make sure you go and check that machine out. Again, like I said earlier, it is a fabulous machine and I love working with it. So I'll leave a link down below for that. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time. Bye.